Welcome back to Deadline DC with Brad Bannon. Our guest in this half hour is a very good friend of Deadline DC, Tara Devlin, host of
Hello.
the popular TARABUSTER
Thank you.
podcast. Tara's here to do a review of the first year of Trump 2.0. But before we get to that, we're going to play the CNN clip with Dana Bash discussing the first year of Trump's second term.
Ugh.
And we've got a brand new CNN poll about President Trump's first year back in office. As our political director, David Chalian, said this morning, you really have to squint hard to find even a small piece of good news for the president in this poll. A majority of the country, 58%, say President Trump's first year has been a failure. That includes 2/3 of independent voters. Now, why is that? Across the board, Americans disapprove of how the president is handling every major issue. He's at 39% on the economy, 42% on immigration. Those are two of the biggest reasons that voters say they sent him back to the White House. The economy is far and away Americans' top concern and has been for years. Right now, 2/3 of voters say the president is focused on the wrong things. And maybe even more importantly, 2/3 say they don't think he cares about people like them. And this is something I wanted to point out and get your take on this part of the poll. Trump puts the country above his personal gain. Yes, 37%. No, 63%.
Who's the 37%?
Yeah.
They're that dumb.
That was Dana Bash from CNN talking about Trump year in review polls. Our guest in this half hour is our very good friend, Tara Devlin, host of the TARABUSTER podcast. Tara, welcome back to Deadline DC.
Welcome.
I'm going to ask
to
you
me.
a question.
I said welcome, but yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question
Yes.
that is probably very difficult to answer.
Oh boy.
So put your thinking cap on.
Okay. You got it.
What is the worst thing about the last year of Donald Trump's second presidency?
That is it. I'm glad you prepped me on that question before the commercial break, because I did have a minute.
I thought it was only fair.
Yeah, I had a minute to think about it. I guess the worst thing that Trump has done is to systematically erode the checks and balances and move us away from a functioning multiracial liberal democracy towards a more authoritarian rule system. We're getting this into people's heads as if that's as American as apple pie. And that's a problem that we get because of propaganda. Like that 37%. How much do you have to hate yourself or be that delusional to think that traitor Trump is operating in your best interests as a working American when we keep slipping lower and lower and lower on the ladder? And what they've done is to lie, continuously divide people, turn us against each other, to redefine, what it means, this is what I'm talking about with being an American. I think that aren't we all sick of the division, right? But I don't know. I don't know about you. I mean, doing this, having a podcast and all that makes me kind of a target. So I hear from I hear from the right wingers, and they're just horrible and awful. So I think like some of the American people enjoy being awful, but I don't know. I think as far as what he's done, that's what I think he's done. I don't know if I'm making sense. I think he's completely, the lies, sometimes you need a dictator. That in itself, for people to accept that, he should be 25th Amendment right there. They should impeach his ass right there for saying something like that. Sometimes you need a dictator. No, you don't. We have so many actual patriots all over the world in their cold early graves that made the ultimate sacrifice that we didn't need a dictator, and even saying that is spitting on their sacrifice. But and approving that. I mean, the Republican Party at this point, we don't have checks and balances anymore, and he's working on doing away and stealing the election coming up. He tried to steal it from Joe Biden now, and we know we can't be delusional or be in denial about it. That's what they're doing now. They want to. That's why he's behaving like there will be no consequences, because in his mind there won't be. And the Republicans. What's so shocking to me really is that he has found so many willing co co co-conspirators, and I shouldn't be shocked knowing a little bit about history. Like in every authoritarian takeover, and then the Nazis, when France fell to the Nazis, when Norway fell to the Nazis, they did it with the help of the conservative power structure that was already in place. So, like Quisling in Norway, and the Vichy
Pétain in
French.
France. Yeah.
So they did it with, and even the conservatives who put Hitler in power. That they there's a pattern here, because conservatism is a fundamentally undemocratic ideology. And and every Republican chess beats the heart of fascism. I've been saying that for years, and I wish I was wrong. Yeah, but even back when Dick Cheney, I mean, we long for the days of Dick Cheney and George W. Bush, which is ridiculous, but it shows you how far we've fallen. But they were talking about the unitary executive. And what is a unitary executive? That's that's a king. That's no checks and balances, is being able to do whatever this authoritarian wants. And really it's about, that's why it's shocking that somebody 37% think he's working for them or gives a shit about them. There would be one example of Trader Trump caring about, the forgotten man and woman in at least in one, anywhere in his useless, rotten grifter of a life, right? There would be an example of him not stiffing his workers, leaving people holding the bag. I mean, he's just been a lifelong con man. And, it's really about, because Republicans, they always talk about small government, they hate government, and they love government. They just like an authoritarian government on a boot on your neck. And they just want to make it easier to steal. That's what it's all about. Make it easier. So for them to ride you mercilessly to the bank and take away our ability to do anything about it. That's what they're up to. And we see with the Epstein files that their bottom, they have no bottom. They just keep hitting bottom, and then the trap door opens and they go tumbling further. And it goes to show us, people are like, how could they do this? How could they hang out with this man? No, like Bersant, what's his name? One of
Secretary
the,
of Treasury Scott
yeah,
Bessent.
yeah, the wife was like, yeah, I'm bringing over 7 kids. Well, let's have lunch. This was like years after he was a convicted pedophile. And but it's just that goes to show you, people are like, how could he do that? It's because they don't consider us people. We are nothing but hosts from which to exploit, hosts from which these parasites profit and discard. We're not one of them. You see, and that's all. That's what it's about. That's why they live in this other world, and they need to be, legally and peacefully disarmed and taxed into reasonableness. I know I'm just going on and on, but yeah.
I tell you, you were mentioning the flack you get from what you
Hmm.
say in your podcast. The most flack I ever got was for a column that I wrote where I explicitly compared Trump and the Trump administration to the Third Reich.
And you're not wrong.
Uh, and the parallels are really
Yes.
uneary. But
Yes, they are.
basically the way I read it is they're basically a third of the public who are completely enamored of Trump and will never, jump ship or everything. I mean, my favorite is, and I think it's from a CNN poll we talked about, 32% of Americans described him as honest. Only 32% described him as honest and Trump-worthy. And I think that's a good benchmark of, there's some people here who just will never give up on him.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Fortunately, the other 2/3 are open to persuasion,
Yeah.
and
Right.
that's kind of our job here.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to have to take another break here, Tara, to give our radio listeners a short break. My guest in this half hour is Tara Devlin, the hostess with the mostest of the TARABUSTER podcast. We're going to take a short break now to give our radio listeners a break, but we'll continue this interview with people online, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of Deadline DC. Welcome back to Deadline DC with Brad Bannon. My guest and my very special guest in this half hour is Tara Devlin, the host of the TARABUSTER podcast. Tara,
Yes.
let me try this out on you.
Uh-oh.
I think that I worry a lot about what's happening to this country, and I know you do too.
Yeah.
Are we on a, I won't bore you with the
Mm.
details, but back in the 1980s, I think it was 89, a historian named Paul Kennedy wrote a book called The Decline and Fall of Great Nations.
Oh, wow.
And his thesis was, he looked at the Roman Empire, the great Spanish Empire, the British Empire, and his thesis was that basically every great power has a run of about a
Yeah.
quarter of a century.
Mm.
And then they decline because they devote too many resources to weapons instead of products for their own
Yeah.
citizens, and interest groups become so important they clog changes in public policy.
Mm.
Do you think we're on that slippery slope now, or do you think if we take action quickly, we can reverse the course?
Well, I do think we're on that slippery slope, and I've studied history as an armchair historian, and I mean, there's many chilling parallels, like we're saying about the rise and fall of the Nazis, but also the decline of the Roman Empire. And I should read that book. I haven't read that book. I
It's a
want,
great book.
yeah, yeah.
Hard to
I
read, but
wrote it
very
down.
good.
Yeah, and but yeah, because but I do think that we can get it back, but we have to do it deliberately. It's like FDR said after the first Republican Great Depression, when his up, from the bottom up policies created the greatest middle class the world had ever seen. He said, yes, we're on our way back, but not because of a turn of a cycle or a shift in the markets, because we planned it that way. So, because people are saying, oh, well, this is just a natural ebb and flow of the market. It's not true. They planned it that way. They built a middle class deliberately, and that middle class was deliberately dismantled, starting from Reagan, when they started shifting the tax cuts, the tax burden to the working class. So we went from the most to the least upwardly mobile, from the slightest income gap to the widest income gap of all of our Western partners. And for the first time in Trump's first maladministration, the middle class went below 50% of the population, and it didn't even make the news. So I find that disgusting, and I think we're here because of the propaganda. Really, we're here because we have these silos of information. That's why we're so divided. And of course, we have Russian misinformation, Russian psyops, bots infesting our public discourse, but they do it, of course, to keep us divided, so we fight each other instead of where we should put our energies. It's like at the top, and
Tara, I'm going to have to interrupt you here so we can bring back our radio listeners. We'll be right back with more Deadline DC. Welcome back to Deadline DC with Brad Bannon. I want to remind, and welcome back to our radio listeners. I want to remind our radio listeners that if you want to watch us as well as listen to us, you can watch the video at uh, twitter.com/Brad Bannon, at facebook.com /Deadline DC with Brad Bannon
Mm,
/videos, and at youtube.com /at Deadline DC. Our guest
yeah.
in this half hour is Tara Devlin, the host of the podcast, TARABUSTER podcast. Tara, uh, one of the best books that I ever read, since I'm in a book mood, I guess, was the great book, uh, The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich by Bill
Hmm.
Shire. Uh, in the start of there's an epigram at the beginning of the book, which I've wanted to read again for years. I read it about 25 or 30 years ago, and I'm hesitant to read it again because I think it might be so
Oh,
depressing
wow. Yeah.
but anyway, the epigraph at the beginning of the book is, people who forget history are condemned to live it,
Oh, boy.
which relive it, which I guess
Yeah.
is a good reason for reading the book again, however painful. Let's
Mm,
let's try this, Tara. Um, I am. Let's talk about some individual policy areas.
mm-hmm.
Uh, when Donald Trump ran his reelection campaign after 4-year hiatus back in
Ugh.
2024, at campaign stops, he often made this statement: "I'm going to bring down prices on day one of my second term." He
Oh,
didn't say
God.
that
I
once. It
know.
was part of his standard
Yeah.
campaign routine. uh, and obviously prices are continuing to soar. I have a belief that, that we've been talking about, immigration and foreign policy, but it's my theory that's what's going to do the Republicans and Trump,
Yeah.
is the failure to do anything about surging inflation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Agree? Disagree?
Yeah, I do. And there's only so much he can gaslight us. And that's the thing. See, Trump sucks at whatever the hell he does. We know whatever everything he touches, he destroys because
He
he's
just
not
closed the Kennedy Center
right.
after taking it over.
Because, yeah, oh, there's renovations, right? Like we're
Yeah,
all
right.
dumbasses.
Renovations,
I
renovation.
mean, that's what we're dealing with. They're just everything is a grift, everything is a con, and that's how he ran his entire life. He's a loser. He's a serial bankrupt. He's a tax cheat. He declared more losses than every other American taxpayer. He's the one. He's a friggin' parasite, and so you can only lie so much, and he doesn't have any, like it was during the pandemic when he was like, well, look to yourself and find your own whatever, because he doesn't know what the f to do, so he takes credit for policies they had nothing to do with, like democratic policies, and he points fingers at his failures, and the buck stops anywhere but on his lap. He's disgusting. I don't know how anybody puts up with it, because it's like a perpetually cranky toddler, pooping his diapers and blaming everyone for the stench. It's unbearable. So, and how stupid do you have to be? How much do you have to hate yourself to believe this asshole? At least, when you think about the end of the Roman Republic, they had some capable leaders, Caesar and Augustus were capable and administrators, right? And they did actually do some things for the populace. And but at the time, it's just what we're experiencing here. This authoritarian backslide, the dismantling of norms and things like that. These are not norms. These are the pillars of democracy you're destroying. And we have this horrible corporate media, half of which is dedicated to the delusion of making the rich richer. And the other half is also, they're not going to, I don't know, I guess they normalize him. and they're because they're all, they're not. I don't know. It's just they're not. It's not the way it used to be. We used to have over 50 media companies.
I mean,
Oh,
CBS is a very good
oh yeah, there
example.
you go. There's a
Who
yeah.
led the charge against Nixon and Watergate? CBS.
That's
Now
right.
they've become
Oh,
an
please.
apologist for Trump.
Yeah, Edward R. Murrow is spinning in his grave, and Cronkite. People used to get their information from the same sources, and we don't do that anymore. Now that's why you have half the country that are consuming propaganda that literally makes its viewers less informed than those who watch no news at all. I don't know why the Democrats don't hammer this all the time, because this is what we have to, I don't know, wake people up from the stupor. But it's going to be difficult if we are not even listening to the same sources. It was like, when Walter Cronkite said the Vietnam War is over, we've lost. The American people believed him because they were they trusted the news. And one of the things and they got the news from the same source, of course. And one of the things that Trump has done, one of the damage, is that he's completely devalued the currency of truth in America. And you can't have a functioning
And again, only
democracy.
1 out of 3 Americans think he's honest and
That's right.
trustworthy.
Yeah. And I mean, and the other thing is everything that Reagan did, doing away with civics education, doing away with free education for into college education. And then and of course they increased the access to credit, which made people more indentured servants to banksters than an upperly mobile working class majority. And all the while, because of the Telecommunications Act, you get these people like Rush Limbaugh and the Fox News propagandists telling people that their problems are because of somebody with darker pigment, or, someone else that is some other that they should put their focus on. And it just completely divide this country. They're so disgusting, really. And, one good thing, I do think that maybe the American people are sick of the division. I don't know. I am. And what we see going on in Minneapolis and coming to a town near us, they're already waging war against the United States. That's what they're doing. I mean, this is the byproduct of we have not finished the work of Reconstruction. And now these Confederates, these conservatives, these traitors are sending National Guard into blue states. How dare you? I mean, it's like, we're really into the authoritarian takeover. We're not at the beginning. We're a few steps into it. We're in the arresting journalists stage. We're in the, killing people in the streets
Speaking of
stage.
CNN,
Hmm.
Don Lemon, who was
Right.
arrested last week
Yeah. And I mean, like,
for
I often
covering a
wonder,
demonstration,
right, for
which is what
covering it.
journalists are supposed to do.
Exactly. Well, this is what they do. This is what authoritarians do. This is fascism. There's no doubt, because I mean, the fact that immediately, even after Renee Good was murdered and Alex Preddy, the murder of Alex Preddy, right in the streets, they just started lying immediately, right out of the gate. So, don't believe your lying eyes. You believe these horrible sociopaths that shouldn't have power to begin with. And they shouldn't be in power. Traitor Trump should be in prison right now. He is a insurrectionist who tried to overthrow this country. And I don't know.
He was convicted of 34 counts of felony
Yeah,
business fraud, too.
that's right. But okay. And now we see. I mean, everything about him is disgusting. He's all over the Epstein files. Could you imagine if this were a Democrat, that person would not even be. Of course, I mean, say what you will about the Dems, we would not put somebody like that in head of our party. And
Yeah.
but Republicans have no trap door anymore. Like I said, it just keeps going. They just keep
Tara,
tumbling further.
we're running out of time, sadly, but I'm sure we will have you back. And I'm glad I was able to help
Thank you.
bring you out of your shell today.
Right.
That's all for today. That's all we have for Deadline DC. I want to thank our guest, Tara Devlin, host
Thank
of
you.
TARABUSTER podcast, Christina Jimenez, director of Shared Future, who joined us to talk about education. We'll be back next week with more of Deadline DC. Miss the very best and aggressive progressive must-see online TV at your
Yeah,
own mortal peril,
that's
or
right.
you'll hate yourself forever. So we'll see you next week. Also want to thank our executive producer, Mark Grimaldi, who makes the show run on time and
Yes.
keeps me in line. We'll be back next week.